Yeah, that's about right. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I hope you're doing well. I hope that wherever you are is doing good for you. It's me, it's Paul Carpenter, and we are here on the road, in the waves, on the other side. But today we're doing it a bit differently. So give me a moment as I let my co host slash host on and let him introduce the show. So let me put him on and let me take myself off. Chris, go get it.
Good morning, good evening, and good night. How's it going, everybody? Oh, what happened?
We are live, man. You just keep going, Chris. I'm just here in the
Looks
background.
look look looks like we had some technical errors.
We've gotten life is a technical error, it seems like. But yeah, it was. We're good. I think we're good now. We should be live and going. I think he's having some technical errors. I'm having some technical errors. I mean, it's all over the place today. Hence why we're doing the biography of my life, because that makes sense. It makes sense that today would be the day where everything is all kinds of confusing and messed up and nothing makes sense. And uh, that sounds about remarkably perfect to me. Let me see if Chris is still here. We'll bring him back on. Oh, we got him. He's here. Are you here? Is your sound working?
My sound is working loud and clear. How's that?
We're getting somewhere now. We're gonna we might know what we're doing here in about
That's it.
5 or 10 years.
Give us a couple of decades, folks.
We'll be there with you. It'll
all
all
right,
work out
all
in
right,
the
guys.
end, I tell you. Oh my
Yeah, there's a bit of a
goodness! All
lag
right,
as
let's
well.
see. I'm
Oh
trying to.
goodness.
It's so much sometimes. All right, let's see. I'm ready when you're ready. Um,
Brilliant. So, hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Chris Kill. Welcome to the Paul David Carpenter podcast. I'll be your host for tonight, and I have got a special guest on for you, ladies and gentlemen. Usually, he's the host, and oh goodness, Paul's disappeared. You wouldn't believe it. All right, folks, I'm just gonna wait
once
here till
again, you're
Paul comes
still
back. There we
good.
go.
No,
He's
you're
reconnected.
good. You keep going, Chris. I'm just killing the camera so you can be live on the camera just all by yourself. Go get it. You're fine. I'm
Oh,
not. I'm
okay.
here. If I do disappear, I'll show up again. Don't worry.
All right, okay, Mr. Director. Yep. So I'm going to be helping Paul today because, I've been watching him for the last how many episodes, and really he deserves to have his own segment in his own show. So I'm going to give it up to Paul. Paul, tell me how it all started.
That's how did it all start?
Yeah.
Well, all right. I'll be all serious for you. I was born in Houston, Texas, in 1976. My mom and dad are both from
Gotcha.
Argentina.
Ooh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. And from there, my dad, whose father's name was Paul Carpenter, he was a pilot in World War II, and I believe he was an engineer. And
Wow.
he ended up being stationed in Argentina, working for an airline company of some sort.
Mhm.
And in that, like a company that made, like a Boeing or something like that, but I forgot the name of the company. Famous in the 50s, or 30s, 40s. Um, Working for them, my grandmother meets him at a USO, and she gets pregnant. He goes to war and never comes back.
Oh,
And my dad was born on a U.S. base, which gave him dual citizenship.
right. So he disappeared.
Mm-mm. He died in a World War II B-17 bomber. He
Oh,
got shot down. He was a pilot of a B-17
yikes.
bomber, and yeah, one of my crazy first like weird childhood memory / dreams is with him. Well, it's not even with him. I had one of these weird, I don't know where this came from or how it came to be in my life, but it was definitely within a dream state. I woke up in my bed one night, and to my right, to the best explanation of it, was remote control planes, like flying at, like, I don't know, chest level in the room. But it wasn't just one.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of them, and they weren't like flying fast or anything. They were just kind of like what looked like they were stuck in place. And it looked like they were like, I mean, maybe everything else is flying, or maybe, I don't know. I can't explain it. Maybe like it felt like I was watching a movie almost. Like everything else is flying around, but the planes are in constant, spot because they're flying, and everything else is moving around. And I just saw things getting shot down and the plane getting destroyed, and that was it.
Wow. Okay. So it's kind of like a post mission.
Yeah, I guess a
flashback.
Yeah, maybe part of my grandfather's soul entered into my body, and because I have the same name as him as well, right? So maybe because of that, maybe a part of him, like that reincarnation thing. I've heard there was a really cool story of this kid. Speaking of the same exact thing that I'm talking about, but like on a real level, this 4 or 5 year old kid told his mom and dad that he liked he really liked World War II planes, and he could name the planes and name the types of planes, and not only that, but like super really descriptive things about these planes. And my friend Dane Zen is here. He's saying it's magic. And he says, you have a bit of a delay in your audio. And then the last thing he says is, hi, Chris, by the way. But
hey, Dane.
Thank you, Dane, for watching. So he ends up telling his parents all these things about these planes and all this stuff. They don't believe him. He says, I know my friend and the name of the guy who was my co-pilot. And they end up finding the guy. He lived only a couple towns away from where the kid was born. He was in an old folks home, and they did a whole movie about this thing, a real documentary film about it. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. And the old man says, oh my God, that's my dead friend. Yeah. Is without a shadow of a doubt. He's like, he told me things that nobody else would know, that nobody else could know, that this kid would have never been told by a parent or by somebody else or something else. He's like, he told me the name of the whore that we had sex with in Europe. I was like, what the fuck? How do you ask a little kid that? But he did. He's like, do you know the name of the woman that we spent time with in Europe? And the guy was like, yeah, her name was Susie. And he's like, get the fuck like that, dude. It was weird.
Fair.
It's just stuff like, I don't know if that's the exact thing that happened, but the man was definitely like, whoa, like this kid knows way too much about me and my life, my squadron, the people that were in it. There's no other way. It's the guy who died. It has to be. Yeah, it was a very cool thing on YouTube, but nonetheless, that's what I saw in like, I don't know, maybe it was like, it looked like puppets, like floating in the sky, like strings were flying in, and I saw like 4 or 5 planes. And, I don't know.
Gotcha.
That was my weird dream as a kid. But
and so, how did that project your trajectory in life? What was the lesson from that? What got you thinking?
Oh no, it totally messed with me, right? Yeah, because my dad was Green Berets, Special Forces, 101st Airborne. So I'll go back. Yeah. So my dad and my mom meet when they're like 15 or 16 years old in Argentina. And my dad falls madly in love with my mom. And they go to a date, and they go to like a dance. And my dad. This is like
in the early 20s.
Oh, let's see. It would probably be around 1961, right?
My mom. Okay, so sorry.
My mom was. I think my mom was 20. Uh, she
No, this
yeah,
is past
she
World
was
War Two.
20. She was 20 in 1961.
Oh, this is your mum. Oh, because that's your
My mom.
grandparents.
This is my mom now. My mom and
Got
dad.
you. Yeah, oh, yeah, okay.
So now my mom and dad, and they go to this dance, and my dad tries to grope my mom,
Oh,
and my mom slaps him and says, "I'm not that kind of girl, John." Because my mom really, really liked my dad.
yeah.
So my dad feels really bad, and he drives all the way from Argentina, Buenos Aires, to a place called Mar del Plata, which is the ocean of gold is the name of it, the translation.
Wow.
And he drove on his like scooter to get there just to apologize to her. So
Oh, sweet.
yeah, really intense, quite beautiful. And so he then leaves, goes to Argentina, and so he leaves Argentina, goes to Brazil, writes for a jazz magazine for 2 years,
Gotcha.
and gets to meet all these great, famous jazz musicians of the time. Got to meet Louis Armstrong even. He goes up and he's in the United States, and he joins the army immediately. He goes straight to the army. And he that's when he does Green Beret, Special Forces, 101st Airborne. And while he's there, he calls my mom and he's like, "Yo, come and get married to me." He then gets out, goes and graduates magna cum laude from Fordham University, and then becomes a 32nd degree Freemason, all while being married and having his
32nd.
first kid. So 32nd goes all the way to the top, and then becomes had my sister, and was going to work while my mom was working at the World Trade Center for the Bank of Japan. And she created the bilingual division for the Bank of Japan. And mind you, my mom had no known idea of English at the time, and she had to have a translator involved and someone else, and blah, blah, blah. It was a whole thing, yeah. My mom tells a story from when she was first here that my dad would have to give her a piece of paper that would have what she wanted for lunch on it when she would go to the deli downstairs at the World Trade Center. They had like this big place where you could go eat, and you could also ask for food, like a hamburger or this or that or the other. And my mom didn't speak any English. My mom was a phenomenally beautiful woman, by the way, in the 60s.
Yep.
I don't know if I have a photo of her. I might that I can show you. But my mom was an absolute goddess back in the day. I mean, for the time and place. And,
so they met. Then they gave birth to you.
Yeah, my sister first, and then they moved to Houston because my dad, through the Freemasonry and through doing as well as he did with everything, he got a job working for Exxon and moved to Houston.
Exxon Global.
Exxon Global. Yeah, so like 1974, 75, my dad was making like $80,000 a year, which back in the 70s was a stupid amount of money. Yeah, he was doing really well for himself, and he then I mean, that's that, right? And then I'm born, and I'm in Houston. That's where my dad was moved to. Houston's a very big oil company, tycoonish kind of thing. And NASA's there. And so my dad wanted to raise his children in a very affluent, nice, good place. And so, American dream, all of that stuff, you know what I mean? And
so it's like you had like some big breaks to fill.
Oh yeah, huge boots to fill. That I don't feel like I would have ever done, really, honestly.
Mm.
And I've done in my own way, maybe, and we'll find out through the end of this whole thing that we're going through. But um, you know, in my own way, I feel like I've done my own Green Beret Special Forces.
You got to the hard yards? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, through some of the rough times in life, you could say. And so
Following after the granddad's footsteps.
yeah, I mean, I've done it to myself in many ways as well. As I look back on life.
Well, that is the journey.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We make a lot of mistakes and say a lot of wrong things along the way. Hurt people, as they say. So,
Mhm.
you know, but you do your best to not be that person. But let's get
Exactly.
into it.
Okay.
So, my first memory, before you even ask, that I can remember in my life is obviously at this house, with my mom, and my dad and my sister that were living there, and
Mm.
uh, we had this front door, and no one ever used the front door in my house. And I mean, I'm talking like
So it was the back
in
door.
15, 20 years of the house that we lived there, nobody ever used the front door. It was a very rare occasion that somebody came to the front door. It was only like if guests came over. But otherwise, we had a driveway, and you would drive up the driveway, and
Coming to the
then
side of the house.
you go into the garage, and then from there was a little side that would go straight to the kitchen, and that's where everybody would come by, and where everybody would come over. Sliding glass door. And so my mom told me as a kid to never go outside. Like, don't go outside through that front door. Don't go to where the sidewalk is. And so, of course, as a child, what do I do? I one day have this yearning to walk out this front door, and I remember
Adam and Eve
vividly.
syndrome.
I remember. I
No,
remember
completely
vividly.
opposite of what your parents tell you.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I remember vividly pushing down on the button to go outside. I remember vividly uh, seeing the metal. We had this piece of concrete that kind of made the sidewalk where you would walk up and then up to the right and then up again to go to the door. I don't know if that makes sense, right? Like a little thing, and then there was this thing that came out that was made of bricks, and then in between that there was a shape of like this, and then that had these metal bars in it, like I don't know, like as if it was a metal doorway of some sort, right? Some kind of
Gotcha.
yeah. And so I remember vividly seeing this as a kid, and I remember walking around that. And at the base of the sidewalk and the walk that went up to my house, there were 3 rocks made of pumice, like a lava stone, which in the 60s and 70s it's super popular to use in your
Pumice,
yard.
yeah.
Yeah, so there were 3 of them, and I just started. But I went up to the sidewalk and I was like, "Oh, you can't go there. Like the floor is lava." Kind of idea. And then all of a sudden, I just start climbing up the rock, and then I climb up the other one, and then I'm finally on the top of the 3rd rock, which is taller than I am. As I think 4-year-old, 3 or 4-year-old is when I'm doing this. And all of a sudden, I put myself into a meditational lotus pose position, as if I know what I'm doing. And I start to meditate. Nobody asked me, nobody told me, nobody showed me, nobody. I just start doing this thing, full on, fingers connected, like full on. And yeah, it was very intense. It was a very intense moment for me. And
How old are you?
4, 5, 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old. And so all of a sudden I feel one droplet of water hit the direct center of my head. And I can only describe it as the feeling when someone does that idea when they do the broken egg on your head, you know, that fake thing that people do. It felt like somebody had broken
So you
something
were
on
like,
me.
you were like having a Isaac Newton moment where you're just sitting below the apple tree and something just drops on your head and you had an aha moment.
Yeah, pretty intense aha moments, because as this thing's happening and it's passing past my head and through me and through my entire body, I remember hearing, not outside of me, but inside of me. Yeah, it was very intense. I will always be here and I will always protect you, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, or stuff like that. So something to that effect.
Do you feel that was like grandpa?
Oh yeah,
or like
it's
God,
definitely.
or...
It was definitely like, yo, I'm like this thing around you that's always here, no matter what's always going on, and blah blah blah, and all this other stuff. And guess what? I'm always here. Guess what? No order, and I want you to know that from now. So like, no matter what happens, it's all good. Just letting you know, like a little note, a little post-it note from God or something. I don't know what to tell you, but I take that now. I take that on, and maybe even 10 years ago, I took that on to mean a whole different thing than I did when I was a kid. So as a kid, I took it on as this thing was like, oh, okay, so it doesn't matter what I say or what I do, I'm gonna be okay because I'm here. Like
it's funny you say this, because this is something as we've been getting to know each other over the years, over the last couple of years, it's something that both you and I resonate on, which is, you know, the fact that we always have, like, doesn't matter what happens, we have a sense, like inherent sense of that God has like our back. Doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah. So there was. So yeah. So there's another. So then my next memory after that is a very weird one, and I ask anybody to go try and do this, but it's super weird. And that is that I used to like to lay down in the carpet at my house. There was like a very thick carpet, and I enjoyed laying down specifically in front of the sliding glass door that was going to my backyard, and specifically very close to where the gears are, like the metal grease of where the doors go back and forth, because I could see dead insects. Gets weird. I told you this gets weird. And there's a smell, a particular smell from like dander and dirt and carpet and pet and outside heat and the smell of a lawn that has just been cut. And it's like all of these mixtures of these smells and these moments. And I just remember this vivid moment in my life where I feel the sun hitting me on my face. My eyes are closed, and my nose is dug deep into the carpet for some reason, and I'm smelling this smell. I can't, you know, I can't give it to you any more than that. Someone says, Paul, reduce your audio from Chris's a little bit. I don't know if I can turn my audio.
Might be a bit loud for them.
Yeah, I'm going to check. Maybe I can do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. Default, echo cancellation, automatically adjust my mic volume. I've done all of the good things. All right, so there we go.
Oh, maybe I can just speak a little softer for them.
Yeah, we'll turn it into an ASMR video. All right. So that's my next one, and then my third one from all around the same time is was in my backyard, and there was one of those green I don't know if they have those where you are, but it's what covers up a transformer that's near a home. And it says, danger, don't sit here. And they usually buzz with some kind of like vibrational sound, like
Noise. Yeah. Electricity. Yeah.
What it is. It's
It's like a
literally
hum.
vibrational energy, right? So I don't know what it was, but as a kid, I used to like to go and sit on top of this thing and meditate. Okay. And then the other thing that I did that in that same day that I'm meditating on my box is that there were a bunch of dragonflies. And this is like one of my totem animals, if you have like totem insects and animals in your life. But I remember seeing all of these dragonflies. And when I say all, I don't mean like one or two or three. I mean, I'm talking what felt like hundreds of these things just flying around all over my neighborhood. And I started to spin around in a circle with my eyes closed. And I kept saying, I'm the dragonfly king. I'm the dragonfly king. And I remember when I opened my eyes, I was inside of a tornado
Dragonflies.
of dragonflies that were just all flying around me. And I've had this magical connection to dragonflies my entire life. And I don't know what it is or what that means or whatever. Yeah, totem animal, like I said, some kind
So
of.
if you were a superhero, you'd be like super dragonfly, dude.
Dragonfly.
Comes out with some crazy martial arts. Dragonfly stance.
Dragonfly.
Okay, cool. So you're adept at meditation, and it seems like you're able to like go into your mind's eye from a young age, right? How does this affect you going into your teens and your early 20s?
So there's a weird thing that happened all around that time, which was, and I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but a realization of how fake this thing is that we're involved in. Like, this is not real. Like, almost like a very guttural, almost instinctual feeling.
It's like you're aware of a paradox.
That what I'm living is not real, that the people around me are duplicated and replicated. I mean, I thought of NPCs when I was, I don't know, 9 and maybe 10, 11. My mom used to work at the mall, and so I would see the same people all the time, right? But I never really interacted with them, but I would always just see them. And so for me, it was like, there's like, do any of these people really exist? Are any of these people real? Or is this like, obviously I'm very into myself. So it's having my own egocentric ideologies as a child. But that was one of my thoughts was, are people real or do they only become real after you meet them? And then I've always had other weird thoughts like, hey, when you go into a plane, do you actually fly anywhere? Or is it all just like a video game that somebody made up to rig up the idea that you're actually flying? You actually don't go anywhere at all. You're just like in a holodeck, but you think you're flying. And then I've also thought of like people around you are duplicated. I've thought of that a lot as a kid for some weird reason, like NPCs, like people are just around you, until I found
it's kind of like game theory.
Yeah, it is very much game theory. And then I also heard the word Sonder. Have you heard Sonder?
I think you mentioned this to me before, because you were going to use this as a brand.
I just like the word, but it's Sonder is supposedly it's a new word within like the last 10 or 15 years, but it's supposed to represent the people that you will never meet, that are like kind of in your life, but you don't know them. Or you'll never meet them. Like maybe it's like while you're driving by in your car and you see somebody
like
in
the
their
sliding
house.
doors.
like you see somebody in their house or on their balcony, and I don't know, they're doing something that makes you smile, and you think to yourself, "Oh, I'd love to meet that person," but you never do. That is a moment of sondering.
Right. Okay. Learning something new.
It's very cool. Like just the idea of that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So let's get back to it. So around this time, I don't know where it comes from. I really don't. Other than I can think that my mom and dad had some issues when I was a kid, right? And I know they fought
with each other, or you?
No, with each other. Yeah. I was never abused as a child by my dad or my mom, at least not physically. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
Mentally.
Yeah, I'm sure. Emotionally and mentally, I was in some way manipulated by
mentally
them.
hip.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's where that comes from later on here in a bit, and I'll get into it now in a bit. But yeah, so around this time, there's this real dark depression that hits me, and I don't know where it comes from.
In your teenhood?
What's that?
In your teenhood?
No, we're still 6, 7 years old. We haven't even gone to Mexico yet when my mom and dad get divorced, which is next scene that comes up. Yeah. So now in this time, because I want to add in everything that happened, in this time, there was a period of time where my mom, 1 day or 2 days or something that happened where my mom couldn't find a babysitter. So she hired a boy that was down the street. And I only know this story and remember only like snippets. When I say snippets, I literally mean what feel like photographs to me. And I'm not sure if those photographs are mine or if those are memories of my mother that she flooded onto me from this devastating moment that happened. But she hired this kid from literally 5, 6, 7 houses down. And when she got home, he was in the bathroom naked, playing with himself, while I was in the sink naked, playing with myself.
How old are you?
Yeah, I'm like maybe 5 years old at this time.
Okay.
So I don't know if anything happened. I don't know if the guy diddled my diddle or what happened. Maybe I blocked it out. Maybe this is where all this trauma comes. I don't know. I don't know. But nonetheless, there's this amount of depression that happens to me. I remember it very vividly. My mom takes me to school one day, and I was going to Whitcomb Elementary at the time. It's my first elementary school, and I remember our icon was a giraffe. I used to love that giraffe. And my mom takes me to school one day, but she got me there late. And I was outside of the school. The school had already started. And for some reason, I decided to stay where the cars pick you up in the morning, standing there and singing the song all by myself until I made myself cry. And then a teacher heard me crying and came and got me from outside.
Wow. Okay.
Don't know why. Okay. Don't know where this comes from. The next memory I have is my mom and dad getting divorced and us going to Mexico and me absolutely hating it. And of course, my dad was my everything as a kid. Even though my dad, I don't remember him much as a child. Like I don't have a lot of memories of like playing baseball and catch and stuff like that. My dad was a business guy who went to work every day at 5 a.m, didn't come home till 7 o'clock at night. And that was his life.
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember going to Mexico and moving in with my aunt and my uncle, my mom's sister, and she had married an engineer who was working at the time for Hewlett Packard. His name is Henry. In Spanish, it's Enrique. And so it's me, my mom, my sister, my uncle, and his wife living in this palatial 5-bedroom house that they owned in Mexico. He was doing quite well for himself, at least I believe. And yeah, so one of my memories there is we got to have ducks. My mom bought us ducks, but then they got too big. And then we had to take them. We took them to this lake that we used to always go to, and then we took them there. And then I remember we went back like 2 years later. There was white ducks everywhere. They had taken over. I think we populated the pond incorrectly, you know, obviously.
So this must have been quite a fond memory for you.
That's a good one. But getting beat up in school when I was forced, I was forced to go to some school that was like a military type school, like a Christian type style academy where you had to wear an outfit every day.
Christian.
I don't know if it was Christian. I don't know what it was, but it was like that. It was like a school where you had to wear a school outfit.
Oh, it's like a private school.
Private school with like suspenders or something. I don't know. And I was getting beat up every single day. I remember there was one fight in particular, though. I decided to just not like get beat up anymore or something, and I went absolutely ham on everybody, and I got kicked out of the school. I think I hurt like 2 or 3 kids pretty badly. And they were like, "Yo, this kid cannot come back." What, you know? I mean, listen, you know, you beat me up every day, and then, you know,
yeah. So you were it was a little unfair for you.
So then, right after that, my mom takes me to another school, which was probably the definitive school of my life, which was a brand new teaching style, which was it would allow you to choose what you wanted to do, except you had to take 2 main courses, almost like going to college.
Oh, it sounds like Montessori.
Almost like a Montessori, but it was from Argentina, and there were I just remember that all of the classes that were outside of math and grammar were all arts-based, humanities style classes, cooking or dealing with some kind of ceramics or whatever. And it was something that definitely hit me pretty hard. And I remember one class in particular, one day in particular, where the teacher grabbed a piece of clay and was able to make a woman laying down. And he did it so beautifully. I think it took him maybe a week, but I remember seeing the finished product of what this guy created with clay. And I remember that being a very like whoa moment for me. Like
sculpting.
Yeah, like sculpting into the clay a woman that was laying down. He wasn't being vulgar or anything like that. He was just being artistic, and it was very beautiful to me. I remember that being a very, very heavy moment. Mind you,
being able to manifest and craft something into reality.
Yeah, I'm like 8 or exactly. And I'm only 8 or 9 years old at the time, you know. So then my another memory, and this is a pretty heavy one. Again, I'm getting beat up. My mom moved out of the house that she was at with my aunt and my uncle. She had her own job now, was doing quite well for herself in Mexico. And we moved into this new building, and my mom wanted to move into this building in particular because it was earthquake proof. And so around the apartment that we lived in was a 3-story car garage or 4-story car garage, and the kids would always be playing on the top of the 4-story car garage for some reason. So I'm up there one day, and these kids were grabbing a cat and throwing it off of the roof just to see if it would land on its feet. And I don't know why, but I took up for the cat, and the biggest kid out of the group started choking me and started to like beat me up. At which point I don't know what I did, but I do know what I did. I don't know why or how or what, but I got angry like an animal. Mind you, I'm
Primal.
scared, right? And I just bit his arm, and the only thing I remember is that I spit his arm at him when I was done. Like I literally chewed
it
a
off.
piece of his arm, and spit it at him to get away. It was the only way to get away, right? Like
So
at least
defender
that's
for
what I
good.
felt. I don't know, I'm scared, and I'm a little kid, and this big 14-year-old kid's trying to beat up on a little 8-9-year-old kid. You know, what do you want, dude? You know, like, so those are, you know. And then I remember the one time my dad visited, or he might have visited a couple times, but I only remember one. And he brought me this toy set. It must have cost him so much money to bring that. I thought about it now. Just now I thought about it because he brought it from the United States. And this thing was like box, like a huge box. And it was this mountain that would open up in half. And it was, I forgot the name of it. It was almost like a G.I. Joe, but it wasn't G.I. Joe. It was a different one from the time. And I had all the things because my dad bought them for me. But I just thought about the price of what it must have cost him to bring that into Mexico as a gift. You know what I mean? Like, oof. Yeah.
Paul, I have a question. I want to sort of be a little bit poignant here. And I want to sort of connect all of like this childhood and teenhood stuff to getting to where
we're not even in the teens yet. We're not even 10 years old yet. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to start to get into, you know, how you got into magic and, how, you know, how you ended up there.
I'm about to. It happens right after Mexico, as a matter of fact, weirdly enough. But there are two other moments I want to share with you from Mexico. And one is, I went to the Olympic pool with my mom and jumped off the 70-meter dive as like a 9-year-old kid. And I don't know if you've ever done 70-meter dive, but that's scary.
Wow.
But I did it, and I landed really hard, like bad, like in a bad position on the way down. And then another memory is we got to go see the butterfly bloom that happens in Mexico, where all these butterflies line on top of the trees, and it looks like it's all orange. But if you make a loud noise or you do anything crazy, all these butterflies just fly up in the air, and it's just everywhere. Like, it's just insanity. And I got to see Halley's Comet. That was another thing that was an amazing thing to see. And my mom took me, and we went camping. And I remember in the middle of the night, she woke me up super excited. And I got to see Halley's Comet. Like, and it was such a magical thing to, like, at first when I was looking up, I was like, oh, I don't see it. And there was like, no, it's right there. And I'm like, I don't see it. And then when somebody was like, no, that's just the thing, but look at all of this. And I was like, oh. And I remember seeing that you could literally see from, like, because we had telescopes and stuff, but you could see like parts of the comet coming off as it's flying. It was so beautiful, bro. What a moment. So that was like another moment. And then my mom, an earthquake happens in 85, and we're there in Mexico, which was one of the largest earthquakes in Mexico's history at the time. And we were luckily in this apartment that my mom had rented. It was earthquake proof, but it hit we were less than 5 miles away from the epicenter, and it was devastating to Mexico. And we left 6 months after that happened, and we moved back to Houston. And my mom and dad were still divorced, and my uncle at the time had already started buying real estate. Not a lot. He's not like some wealthy, lord of real estate or anything. He's like maybe 2 pieces or 3 pieces in his entire life. But he owned an apartment in Houston in particular. And so my mom started to live there, and we started living there. And then my dad was living in Seabrook at the time, and he had a girlfriend. Her name was Linda. And I remember the summer very specifically. It wasn't that I thought she was very beautiful, and she tried very, very diligently to be nice with me, but I just wasn't gonna have it. Like if I was back, I was gonna manipulate everything in my power to get my mom and dad to be back together and have no other choice. So that was my mission.
Really sad.
That's really sad.
That was my mission, and that's what I worked on until my dad, or until a woman couldn't date my dad anymore because of me. And in my dad's eyes, around 10, 11, 12, there was nothing I could do wrong. You know, my dad was like, my number one guy at that point. And he actually saves my ass when I'm around 17 or 18 years old. When I was when I went to graduate high school, which I'll get to in a minute, but so there's a very formative.
Paul, I just want to be a little bit more poignant with the conversation. Just
sure.
We've got about 15 minutes left.
15 minutes left.
15.
Yeah, my man.
Man, I'm going to be here without you for the next couple hours. I'm going to get somebody else to come on. I'm not done.
Oh goodness.
I told you I was going to do like 2-3 hours on this one, man. I'm going to spend time on this one. I'm going to go pretty deep.
Okay.
But go ahead. But let's go. So look, 10 years old is the first time I ever see magic in my real life. I see a magic show at my friend's house. His name is Andy. Still know him. Lives in Houston. He's now a financial kid. I remember seeing a magician at his house, and then that got me into magic. And then I started watching. I saw David Copperfield on TV, and
David Copperfield. Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, I absolutely
he's
fell
amazing.
in love with magic at that point. Yeah, absolutely fell in love with magic. It was something else to me. And then I started to learn magic. And I would go to the library, and I would use the Dewey Decimal System, little cards to try and find, the thing you were looking for back in the day.
Gotcha.
And I remember I looked up the top. I found a book called The Math of Magic, or something like that.
The Math of Magic. Okay.
Yeah, something like that. And then I found another one which was like The Cooking of Magic, or the magic of cooking, and the magic of math, and the magic of this, and the magic of that. So I just started getting any book that had the title of magic in it. And I was asking the library to get those copies so that I could rent them out. And so I had like just every book. And then finally I found a book called The Structure of Magic. And I'm probably around 12, 13 years old. And this is a book written by John Grinder and Richard Bandler. And it's the fundamentals.
Oh, Richard Bandler. Yeah.
Okay. So it's the fundamentals of neurolinguistic programming.
New NLP. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And so I don't know what I'm reading. I'm 12, 13 years old. But because of this, I get into Napoleon Hill. At 13, 14 years old, I get into Carnegie. Now, I had already at 8. No.
Carnegie.
Right before I left, right before I left and went to Mexico, I was in the Boy Scouts, and I had been going door to door selling Christmas ornaments, like from a little catalog. All because I wanted my own chemistry kit that you could get from the back of the magazine. It was called Boy's Life. And on the back last page, they had all these toys, like cool science toys, And one was a chemistry set. One was a microscope. One was a telescope. And I said to my dad, will you buy me this? And my dad looks at the magazine for a couple seconds, and he says, oh, look. It says here, if you make enough points by selling stuff, that you can get it for free. And so he put me on a mission, and that was go see what something's worth for your time and your energy is basically the lesson he taught me. So for the next 3 months, every single day after school, I went to work. I even wrote down, I created a map. I might be 10 years old at this time. Yeah, I think I'm 10. I created a map of all the streets in my neighborhood and all the houses that had answered and all the houses that I had sold and all the answers that never answered, so that I knew which ones to go back to. Like I was like super dedicated about this thing. And I did this for months. And at the end of a couple of months, my dad couldn't park his car in the garage anymore because we had so many boxes of deliveries that I had to make to all these people who bought stuff. So after that fiasco, my dad, because I wanted to have some kind of work. I remember saying that because I looked up to my dad.
So
My dad
this
worked
is like
like
your first taste of entrepreneurship.
This is a first type of like entrepreneurship. Yeah. My dad knew the owner of a local magazine. He was a Freemason. My dad's a Freemason. And the guy gave me a job working door to door selling newspapers. So I started doing that until I was like 15. So I did that for like 2 years. And I did it on my spare time, just whenever I wanted. Well, I didn't take that one as seriously for some reason. I think it's because I had magic that had taken hold at that point and hypnosis that had taken hold at that point. And at 15, I got a job working for the Houston Chronicle. And I proved myself so quickly that I was able to start teaching other kids that were my age. And I had my own like team, if you will. I had 5 kids that I was showing how to do what I had learned how to do. Like learned how to do door to door. Like I knew door to door really well at 15. Like I was really good at it. My first car, I'm 16 years old, and I bought a Porsche 914, which was the same age I was at the time. It was all red, the black bottom, said Porsche on it. Super cool, convertible. And I remember I bought a alarm for it, and it was a talking alarm. Mind you, this is 93, 90 something. I don't know, like that,
Wow.
So
Early 90s.
Yeah. Early 90s. Yeah. So to have like a talking alarm was like a cool deal. It was this thing you could buy
when they had hand phones in the cars.
I was the first person in high school to have a cell phone, and I had like a really cool cell phone at the time. It was really cool. So it connected to your home phone. So like you would have your like, and you bought like a cell phone, and you pay for a monthly service, but that same phone had the ability to where it was at your home, it became your home phone. It literally switched over, and you could call me on the phone at my house, and it was like picking up a wireless a phone, like your old, the old metal antennas that you would have, and you would walk around your house. It was one of those, but for like, then you would get in your car and it would say switching over, and then it would switch over and you would be in your car and you could talk on the phone, on a cell phone. It was like, wow, this is a new world, bro,
Nice.
So I didn't have the car very long, maybe about a year, and then I wrecked it. My mom and dad get divorced. I remember I'm around 17 and I go to the Air Force. Okay. Oh, so this is when I didn't want to be in high school anymore. I knew that for a fact. Like I was done with school. Like I just didn't like it. Didn't like the whole idea of the way it was built. I don't know. And in my head, I wanted to be in the Air Force. And this goes back to your first question from a while ago about asking me, did it have any effect on my life? And did it ever? The dream about the pilot, my grandfather's name being Paul Carpenter. I ended up going into Civil Air Patrol because I was a Boy Scout. I had gone to the Arrow of Light. I never became a Eagle Scout, but I did become the vice president of the Explorer Scouts. And so Explorer Scouts was, I don't know, more like in the thick of it. We would do more like canoeing and kayaking and rock climbing, and it was just a cooler. And there was girls in it too. So it was girls and guys. It was co-ed. So it was super cool. So Explorer Scouts is where it's at, by the way. So I did that for like a year or so, and I had an amazing time. There's a guy's name I remember, David, who was one of the leaders of that group. He was a cool kid. I don't know why that just popped up, but it did. And at this point, I am in Civil Air Patrol, 15, 16 years old, 17. I just want to get out of school. I don't know what happens. I get in some kind of trouble or something. And I remember this. I got into so much trouble one year. I skipped so much school. I skipped half a year of school. I literally skipped half the amount. Like, so if there's like, let's say there's 600 days or however many days of school there is, I literally skipped the exact half the amount of like. So we're like, yo, we cannot graduate your son. Like, your son's not going to graduate. There's no way. And my dad went and met the principal of the school at the time, and they were both Freemasons. My dad went into the office, stayed there for like less than 3 to 4 minutes, came back out, and he's like, all right, you graduate now. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow,
I went to another
school.
I went to another school. It's called Houston Learning Academy. It was connected to the CCISD in some way. And I was able to graduate from my school, but with the diploma from this other school, whatever they wanted to do, just to get me out of the school, basically. They didn't like me in that school. I was always asking questions. I was always questioning authority. I was always doing whatever I wanted to do. And so it behooved the school and the principals and everybody to get me to leave. It's that simple. So 17 years old, I graduate high school because I went to the school and all you had to do was take tests. And if you took a test and you passed it, then they would pass you in that class, that thing that you had to be through. So I just took a bunch of tests and tested out of everything. Within like a 3-month period, I just tested out of everything. It was really quickly. And I totally skipped over a story, which kind of answers how I did that, which is when I was 12 years old, I watched a movie, and this movie definitively fucks with my head and messed with my head, and I am a product of this movie in many ways. It's called Communion, and it's a movie about a guy who gets visited by aliens. Now, I hadn't seen this movie for years and years and years until maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I was with a woman that I was dating, and she wanted to watch the movie with me because I had mentioned it to her. And there's a scene in the movie where there's this very weird dream state place thing happening, and there's a magician and a guy doing weird magic tricks and like this weird full-on Christopher Walken was in the movie. You're right, Dane mentioned here a second ago. It says Christopher Walken, and he also said loving the story, and thank you, Dane, for watching. Thank you all for watching. So definitely messed with my mind, but I don't know this until 30 years later, by the way. And so I was much farther. I was at high school. I graduated. I'm 17 years old. I had just gotten out of Civil Air Patrol, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to the Air Force. I'm going to go be a pilot. I'd be a perfect.
Following in your father's footsteps.
Yeah. No. So going back to the story about the UFO and why I have so much information in my head, when I was 12 years old, I read the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Britannica.
All of them from A to Z. When I was 12 years old, it took me like 3 months to do
and
it.
And the appendixes.
I had them, but I don't think I did those. But I did read A through Z. I remember doing that as a kid. I don't know why I did that, but I had this want to. Actually, I do know why. I had this want that if I could memorize everything in the Encyclopedia Britannica, aliens could come and download all the information, and I'd be able to help humanity.
Oh goodness! Yeah, you'd
be
a valuable asset.
Right, but this is only after watching the movie and getting inspired by this Christopher Walken character that he got involved and got to talk to aliens, and I wanted to talk to aliens. And so, anyways, I have this very intense
desire.
3-month period where I ask every night for aliens to come visit me, and they came and visited me on one night. It was a very intense moment. I have a lot of weird memories from this period. I moved from that room to another room, back to my childhood room, after fighting for months to get the room that I wanted because I was so scared of living in that room. And it wasn't until years later that I moved back to that room because I liked it, and I wanted to live in there. So I'm 17 and I go to the Air Force, and I was never emotionally mature. Like, I was always a little kid in my head. 47 and I'm still like an 8-year-old in my brain. And so there was something about in my mind about wanting to complete life correctly. I said to myself, hey, if I go to the Air Force, I'll have money. I'll be able to get a job. I'll have the GI Bill. I'll be able to go to college. Maybe I'll meet somebody while I'm in, working in the Air Force. Maybe I'll be able to be a pilot once I go to college, and I can go to officer school. And so I have these plans, right? This is my idea. I didn't have anything else really going for me. And I didn't ever take magic as being something. And another devastating moment for me was when I was 12 years old. I was asked to be the lead and sing a solo for my school. And it was Let It Be by the Beatles, is the song that I chose. And I remember being so nervous that I threw up that night. And then I remember going out on stage and singing. And I remember there being like a standing ovation, and I'm not even kidding, for like what felt like 45 seconds to like a minute of people just absolutely just, holy crap, what did we just see? What was that we just saw, right? Kind of moment. And I remember specifically looking out in the audience, and my mom and my dad weren't there. And I remember being like super devastated about that. And then going back to my statement about, I never thought magic or entertainment. I take that back. I was 8 years old. It was the first thing I ever did in my life. It was a commercial for Chiclets in Mexico, which is a gum company. Chiclets. Yeah. And
so you did a commercial.
I went to the audition.
Oh, okay.
And I remember being at the audition like vividly, like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking in and seeing people with clipboards and people talking on walkie-talkies, and there was lights, and I was just so enamored and overwhelmed with this like machine of, oh, this is how it happens, that you see what you see on the other side. This is what it looks like when it's getting done. Oh, this is cool, folks. So that's where I was in my head, and I was so overwhelmed. I didn't speak Spanish very well at the time, and the commercial wasn't Spanish. And I remember not getting the part.
Oh,
And
you didn't cut the role.
I remember 4 months later seeing the commercial online or on TV and thinking to myself, because I could speak better Spanish at the time, so, man, I could have definitely done that. And then, so 17.
Retrospectively, it's always regretful.
Right. So then I'm 17. I go to the Air Force, and going back to this mindset of being a kid, and I'd never gone to camp before, and for some reason, there's this thing that happens to me, and this is probably one of the first times I can remember as an adult, or almost an adult, where I specifically know the right thing to do, and yet I don't go that direction. So there's this thing inside of me that when I go do something, I'm going to give you everything I've got and more. So much more. Just going to give you everything I got. All my energy, all my time, all my thoughts. And I'm just going to give and give and give and give and give. Right. And so when someone comes to me while I'm in that process, and I'm thinking of another story for like 30 something years old, but I'm going to kind of bring it up because it kind of gives ploy and touch to everything. That, like, for instance, I was going to be a rabbi. I went to go study to be a rabbi in Israel. I'm 30 something years old at the time. And,
Gotcha.
And I was giving it my heart and soul, and I'd really fallen in love with the religion. And I was told by the guy who was running the school, the rabbi, the school dean or whatever, hey, we're moving you to your next like courses. And I wasn't ready yet. I didn't speak Hebrew yet. I wasn't fully committed yet. I still had pieces missing. And he decided to move me on to this next class. So I asked him the weekend or 2 weekends before he moved me to let me have dinner at his house for Shabbat. So I went to his house for Shabbat.
Okay, so elaborate what Shabbat is.
So Friday night dinner, Friday night prayers and services to Saturday night prayers and services, in which, you're, the day of rest. So at the dinner, I say to him,
so Sabbath is on Saturday?
Friday night to Saturday night. So from Friday, so if you want technicality, it's Friday when you see through the first 3 stars in the sky until Saturday when you see the first 3 stars in the sky.
Using the Gregorian calendar. Like it's every Friday, Saturday, or is it like
every Friday
on a certain period?
Every Friday.
Oh, okay.
Sabbath. It's like Sunday, but it's Friday.
Okay.
Friday night. That's the Jewish thing. And you don't work. It's the day of work. It's the day you stay with family. It's the day that you spend 24 hours with God. The day that you connect and reconnect to yourself and your family and your religion. And it's considered to be the holiest day in Judaism, and it happens 52 weeks of the year. Even though there are very holy days in Judaism, the back end ideology is that if you spend any time in your mind thinking about Torah, then that is a very special moment. But if you spend any amount of time getting ready for Shabbat and actually spending time in Shabbat, that's super.
Shabbat just literally translates into Sabbath. Okay, got you. Cool.
So I said to the to the rabbi, I say, listen, I know myself really well, and I'm not ready yet. If you push me, I'm just going to push back, and then I'm going to leave, and I don't want to do that. So what's he do 2 weeks later? Puts me in the thing he doesn't want to put me in, the thing I didn't want to be in, and then slowly over time, slowly over time, I just start to lose that thread. Like, that's the best way to explain it. Like, I was reeling that thing in like a beast. Like a beast. I would have been such an amazing rabbi for that organization on so many levels. But whatever. That's life, I guess, right? But that's not the story. We were way back. I'm 17 years old. I go and I was super gung-ho about being in the military and doing it right and showing my father and being an American and patriotic and all of it. And so I'm really into it. And I remember within like the first week or two, my squadron commander came and like was meeting his new squadron that showed up for training. And somewhere along the conversation, he says, I want any one of you here right now that came in with the idea of you thinking that you could go to go get a GI Bill and become a pilot. It's a dream and it'll never happen. Like, just talk about killing my dream, like within the first 2 weeks of being there. And then I just absolutely give up. And so third week, I find out about services as a Jewish person, and you can go to synagogue. So I went to synagogue, and I end up coming back to the squadron that night. And then on Sunday, everybody went to church. So I just went to church with everybody. So then I got in trouble. Oh, no, sorry. I grabbed a Snickers bar from the church. And then I got in trouble when I got back to the squadron for, I think I lost Chris there for a second. If he comes back, I'll bring him back. But I got in trouble for going to both services, which is understandable. But at that point, I started collecting candy, and I started putting it in the rafters of my squadron so that when I was hungry at like 2 a.m, I could wake up and I could go and I could get candy from the rafters while everybody else is sleeping. Don't ask me what I'm thinking, okay? And so I end up getting up one night and I end up going, and I guess somebody had heard me the night before, or somebody had heard me something, and somebody's like, "Yeah, what are you doing?" I'm like, I got some candy in the rafters. And we're sitting, me and 3 or 4 other guys sitting a powwow. We're all fucking munching, doing, we're eating candy together. And the next day I get recycled, which means I get sent back in boot camp for getting in trouble. And I get sent back all the way back to like my first day. So I've done like, I think 4 weeks. I was only 6 weeks in. It would only been 6 weeks. 4 weeks into it, they send me back. Oh no, they sent me back 2 weeks. So at that point, I'm done, right? I'm like, oh no, I'm not. I ain't doing no. So then they recycle me again 2 weeks later when I get back to my 4th week again, and then they sent me back to my 0 week. And then I was just done. Then I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to follow any rules. I'm not doing anything. Send me the fuck out of here. So at that point, they take me and they put me into a mental institution on base, which is where they left everybody, by the way, for whenever you're leaving. And they figured out the paperwork. And it took like a week or so. And then I left. And I went back home. So I'm like 17, almost 18 years old. And I get back home. And I remember I was packing everything like as I was in the military still. Really weird, like very indoctrinated. And I leave my house and I go to my friend's house, whose name is Dane. Let's see, Dane, how do I bring you online? Dane, I can send you the link since I'm talking about you. And let me see if I have Dane Zen. Let's see. This is a great story. This next story part is great. And Dane is part of the story, so we should totally bring him on because this just makes the story that much better. Dane, I just sent you a messenger on Facebook Messenger. And then if you go into that Facebook Messenger, you go into StreamYard, you should be able to pop up and we should be able to see you. And then also while we're waiting for him, I will bring you back in time with me, folks. This is so cute. But I set this up because I told Chris I set this up. He's like, man, you came prepared today. I was like, yes, Chris. And I want to thank Chris, by the way, for coming up and doing the show with me today. He asked me like 4 or 5 times to do it. He was like, I really want to like have you do your own biography. And I was like, that's a really good idea. You know what I want to do after that? And he's like, what's that? I was like, I want to take all of the video and get it translated, transcribed, and then take the transcription and turn that into a book. And he's like, dude, that's super smart. And I was like, I think everybody who's ever been on my show so far should be doing that because that's just the smart thing to do. But that's just me. Oh, right. What was I doing? I'm showing you pictures. This is so cute. Hold on. I'm still waiting for Dane to come in. Hopefully he will be here in a second. And in the meantime, I will share some photos. Dane says to resend it. He says, resend it. Resend it, yo. And let's go into, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Hold on, Dane. I'll send it to you in a second. I thought I already did. Yeah, dude, I sent it to you on 2 minutes ago, bro. To your Dane Zen account on Facebook. The one you and I are friends on. And so I was going to show you pictures. These are pictures. Here we go. Pictures. Let's do the pictures. This is me as a kid, folks. This is as good as it gets. There you go. Let's blow it up a bit more. Aww. Look at this. What a cutie patootie. Yep, folks, that's me. There's my first haircut. Hold on. There we go. My first motorcycle. My first beach day. First day of school. I think this is my 5th birthday. I was really into Mickey Mouse. As you can see, there's Mickey Mouse down there. And trains. I like trains because my dad loved trains. That's why I love trains. And it's really crazy because to this day, I still wear the same exact outfit when I perform. Literally look the exact same. Well, I mean, I'm older now, but I wear the vest with the little thing in the watch since I was a kid. I mean, that's got to be some weird something we got to talk about there. All right, let's go back and see if Dane has made his way to us here today on the Steamyard. Still waiting for it. Dane. Dane. Poor Dane. Dane's got issues in life. What's your phone number, bro? Can you stream your phone number to everybody? So, no links for you, bro. No, dude, I'm looking at it. I am looking at the freaking. Maybe you have me deleted on Facebook. That's what it is. But I've sent to you on Dane Zen twice. Here, look. I'll even call you. I'm gonna call you now. Oh, hold on. All right, hold on. I'm gonna send you the link this way. Send a new message. I'm an old man here, Pro 917. Oh, stop saying stuff. Moving the numbers. All right, here we go. I hope everybody took their break and had some fun. There, did you get the message now? All right, so anyways, we had a little break there from my life. Here we are. We'll go back to some photos. Someone said I had some big shoes to fill. They weren't lying. And then right here, if you look right here on the where my cursor, oh, you can't see this. Hold on, let me share this. You guys can't see what I'm doing. Let me share this with you all. I had some big shoes to fill. That was the big shoes to fill. Here we go. You see, it's true. And if you look really carefully, there's some kind of weird anomaly happening here. I don't know what this is, but that's weird. Anomaly photo stuff. We're still waiting for Dane. We're going to find him. He'll be here any minute now. I think he's going to make it. Bro, I sent it. 917-224-5130. Oh, 912. That's probably why you didn't get it. That guy in New York's going like, what the hell's going on, bro? 912. Oh. Duh. That's why it didn't work. 912. Come on. 912-224-5130. All right, here we go. Hold on. I got to get the Steamyard code again. So much work. 912-224-5130. I got it. We got it this time. For real. Okay, let's welcome Dane to the show, hopefully in a moment. Folks, this is my first fire truck. This was from a thing that I did in school. I remember this night specifically. It was the first time that I ever got a solo performance. I'm 7 years old here. And I got to do the song, I'm an old cowhand from the Rio Grande. Yeah, that's the song I got to sing. So we're still waiting for Dane. Hopefully he comes in. Did you get the message now, Dane? 912-224-5130. I sent it to the right number. I'm going to keep going through these photos. For those of you who are out there wanting to know what happened to me, I don't know. But this is me growing up. And this is Mexico. This is like when I was around 10 years old. This is My mom and dad had gotten divorced. That was around that time. That's Mexico. That's my room in Mexico. Bro, I swear, Dane. Did you give me the wrong number, bro? I really don't understand this. I have 813-476-2782, 510-452-8345, 510-314-0992, 813-540-2449. Got a ton of numbers of yours, but and the one that I did send, I sent, and you're saying I didn't send it. I'm saying I sent it. All right. Is your number 912-224-5130? Dane, are you still there watching? He's like, no, I'm not watching. So I really don't know where he's at, or if he's here, or if he's not. I don't know what's going on. All right, we're going to try this again. Send this 912-224-5130. Dude, I'm going to steal the number over here. So we should all just start calling you and bugging you is what we should be doing. Wait, what am I doing? I could just post the comment here, bro. There you go. I don't know if you're seeing that. Oh, that's only going to Twitch. On it all. Well, it went to Facebook. Oh, it went to YouTube, and it went to Twitch. That's dope. I don't know if you see that. Can you see that link? Let me go on Facebook and see if you can see that link while I'm live on the Face Cracks. Telling my life story as we're taking a break and getting into chapter 2 of my life. I think there's 3 chapters so far. Let's see. So I want to look and see if the comments are showing up. No, comments are not showing up. Is that because this is not edited correctly? Edit audience. Public. Done. Weird. All right, I'm going to go back to the studio. All right, Facebook. You know what? Here, I'm going to go to Facebook and actually post it in the comments of my Facebook. Man, I'm trying everything for you here, buddy. We're going to get you on. We're going to get you on the Steamyard in one way or another. There, I just put it in the comments of Facebook. I've messaged it to you on Messenger, which now says that you're active now. So I'm going to send you the message again on Facebook Messenger. See if that rings a bell over in your phone or something. I don't know. And then I'm going to go back to the studio to see if you showed up. We're almost at 17, 18 years old. Oh, we got him. We got Dane. Here he is. Let's bring him on. And all right, let's get your sound working now. Oh, it's working. This is great. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, dope. Okay, so I am 17 years old. I get out of the Air Force and I get home. And I decide that day to go visit my friend. It is a Wednesday. This kid's name is Dane Dyson. The kid that is right here next to me, also known as Dane Zen on the internet, if you'd like to go listen to some of his music. You muted yourself, by the way, but you're fine. So I show up to his house, and it's early in the morning, and I knock on his window. The first thing I see is a kid look through the blinds and then rip open the blinds, and all I see is this kid at 16 years old in tidy whities and nothing else. And then he runs to the door, and he's excited to see me. And that day, he says, "Oh, listen, I got some pot." And then we found some like glass beakers, like the glass beakers that you would use for school, and we were trying to melt them because we wanted to make it into a pipe. And we kept breaking them. We're silly kids. Anyways, we get super high that day, and I have some kind of weird dream state moment. And I said to him, "Hey man, there's like this weird thing going on where we're not going to be friends anymore." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, something's telling me we got to go somewhere." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he's like, "Well, man, maybe we should go to Galveston." I was like, no. So he goes, "Oh, maybe we should go to New York." I'm like, no. He goes, "Hey, maybe we should go to LA." And I swear on my life to this day, as he said, "Let's go to LA," and we weren't, the garage door was closed, but we had like just a small bottom of it open so that the smoke could get out. And it was kind of a gloomy day, but right as he said that, the clouds broke and the sun like burst into the garage, and we're both looking at each other like, whoa. And so we decide that night that we're going to go to LA. I think nothing of it. I pretty much forgot about the whole thing. And then on a Friday, he says to me, "Hey, pack your shit. We're going to LA. I'll be at your house in a couple minutes." And I'm like, "Okay." I don't know what's going on just yet. But I rush into my room, grab some clothes, go into the kitchen, grab a bunch of canned foods, steal the only can opener we have, tell my mom that I'm going camping with Dane in Galveston. And I go to the same corner in which I had meditated when I was 6 years old, that same spot. And I sit there waiting for Dane. Now, out of a movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off style movie, as I'm sitting there waiting, my dad is driving his little Hyundai hatchback at the time. And I see him coming up the street, and he stops up the driveway, rolls down the window, looks at me and goes, "Are you okay?" I go, yeah, everything's cool. Wait for Dane. We're going to go camping. And my dad says, "Okay." And he drives up a little bit more, stops the car, gets out, and for the first time in my life, goes through the front door of the house.
That's right.
And as it's like out of a movie, this moment. As he's going with his keys, super like slow motion, opening, and all of a sudden he opens the door, and as the door closes, I hear, and there's Dane in a brand new 1994 white Camaro, and he's like, jumps out of the fucking car, grabs my bag, doesn't say a fucking word. He's like, "Go,
We gotta go.
Get in, we gotta go. Throws up the trunk, throws my bag in there, slams it down, and just starts driving. Next thing I know, we're he says, I've got 4 bags of pot, four quarter bags of pot.
An ounce. That was a lot better.
And I'm like, "Oh, I know where we could sell some." He's like, "You do? Because we need money for gas."
I remember.
So we went to Numbers, and I saw Vincent, and what was his other kid's name? Marcus.
Vincent had those weird fingernails, remember?
The two gay guys from school. Yeah. They were okay, so I see him there and he gives me $20. I try to give him the pot and he's like, I don't want your pot, but here's the $20. Now mind you, $20 in 1994 was like $100. So I mean, really,
gas at
$20. A tank of gas was not even $5 or $6, $7. Not even.
Come on, it was pretty cheap. 99 cents a gallon then, bro.
99 cents a gallon, so maybe $10, $12 for $15.
$15. $20, you can get a full tank of gas and a pack of cigarettes.
Right. Anyways, so we end up there, and then we get this money, and he gets all excited, and we had bought this bong that could only use ice that was chopped up.
Little purple baby.
And all I remember is I get really stoned, and we're driving on I-10 going towards San Antonio. The next thing I know, it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, and Dane wakes me up. He's like, yo, we're in San Antonio, bro. I'm like, oh, fuck, you really did it. You weren't fucking around. We're really going to L.A. And you're like, yeah, man, we're going, bro. And we get to El Paso. We have no gas.
Oh, man.
And we go to a gas station, and I was like, yo, if we steal the money with gas from here and we cross state lines, they'll be out of their jurisdiction.
We're taking this to a federal level at this point.
So, yeah, we do it. And we get there, we get the gas, and we cross over. We're getting in New Mexico. And we were going down this road, and I was like, oh, let's take this other road. It's faster.
We didn't have cell phones at this time.
And we're on this road, and it's a straight middle of the nowhere highway. And Dane's like, dude, we need a gas station. I'm like, yeah, man, we're about to get to one right now. Don't worry. And we pass one. And I was like, that was the gas station. Dane's like, I ain't going to that gas station. I was like, bro, the thing said there's not another gas station for another 80 miles. And we don't have gas, dude. Turn the fuck around. So we get there, and we don't have any money for gas. And Dane decides that he's going to trade his DVD or CDs, music CDs, which were expensive at the time,
$20 a pop.
And the guy at the store was cool enough, and he took like 5 CDs and gave us a full tank of gas and some munchies. We get back in the car and we kept driving. Now we get to Vegas.
Oh, God.
And we have no money again. And we drive by a porn establishment. I'm old enough to get in, but Dane is not. Dane was 16, I was 18. And we get there, I walk in, I walk back out, and as I'm walking back out, 2 guys, black guys, in pimp suits, with opposite pimp suits, one with black and white, the other one with black, and the other one with white and black. So like white suit with black shirt and tie, and the other one with the black suit with white shirt. Very, what the fuck is going on in life? But nonetheless, I tell Dane that I'm going to sell them drugs. Dane's like, you're fucking psycho. And so I grab a bag of the pot and I go, listen, man, I'm sorry to bother you, bro. But me and my friend, we're traveling and we don't have any money, but we have a bag of pot. We're trying to sell the bag of pot for some food and some gas. And I'll sell you this quarter for $40. And the guy's like, remember the guy had a cane, and the guy goes very slowly with the cane, goes up and grabs it, pulls out the cane with a fucking knife, a sword, and I'm like,
sword.
I'm dying, bro. I'm gonna fucking die right now. And this guy says, you a fucking cunt, motherfucker, as he's pulling the whole thing out. I said, no, bro, fucking kid from Houston, Texas, my friend, bro, and fucking, what the fuck, bro? And he like closes it up. He's like,
all right.
He's like, I'll give you $20. And I'm like, fuck, we'll take it, bro.
Let's take it.
And so I give the guy the 20 bucks. Guy gives me the $20. I give him the bag. Dane can't believe it. We go to a food place. We get food. We get gas, and we go to the MGM parking lot because it's free to park there.
That's right.
And we get a lot. We get really. I think. Did we have acid? Did you have acid?
No, we just had weed. And I remember
I don't know what it was, but I remember we got so fucking high.
Like newspaper just to smoke the weed.
And I remember we got so high, we're inside MGM, and we went to some place where it was Wizard of Oz. And I remember being like, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like, the sky was changing, and it was turning into a fucking a nighttime with, like, lightning bolts. And, oh, my God, bro. I'm looking at Dane. I'm like, bro, I can't do this, bro. I don't know what's going on.
We jump in the elevator at that point.
Yeah, and we went back to the car, and I end up passing out, and Dane ends up getting up and going out and staying out all night long. And then I wake up in the morning, and he had just gotten back, and he's tired, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm driving. So I start driving, and we go to LA. And we get to the Santa Monica area, and we stop, and we pull over, and he gets out, and we get out, and we go up to the thing, and we're looking out to the ocean. We're like, holy fuck, we actually made it. We meet an old lady, and we tell her that we don't have any money, and she says, if you come to my house and wash my car, I'll feed you, and I'll give you a couple sandwiches. And we go to her house, we wash her car, she gives us some sandwiches and $20. And then we're running around the streets of Hollywood Boulevard, and we find the Covenant House, which they wouldn't let me into because I was too old, but they let Dane in. And since they let Dane in and I was with them, they let me in, and so we were eating food at the Covenant House for free. And as we walk away from the Covenant House...
Don't forget, we had to park the Camaro in the alley, so nobody knew that we were mobile.
That's right, that we had a car, because that's right, I remember that, right? And so as we leave with our food in hand, we thought we were going to get more, but then we did. We get there, and as we get to the car, we hear a band playing.
Well, we saw the guys unloading a bunch of PA equipment, and they were taking it up 2 flights of stairs.
Right, and I think, I don't know what I said, or I don't know what I did, or...
You guys need a hand for a couple bucks?
We asked them for something, and the trippiness of it was the guy that we met was the drummer for a band called Why. Yeah, and the name of the band was called Why Am I? Literally a Y, an M, and an I. And then there was another room next to that room, which was a band, and they were called Parade of Losers.
POL.
And so we end up, because Dave's so nice, Dave sees that we're like, fucking just running this crazy fucking idea of a fucking run. And he's like, cool, let's do this. I'll let you guys be our roadies. And we end up, for like the next couple weeks, going to like the coolest clubs in all of LA. We got to go to the Rainbow and have chicken.
The Viper Room, the Whiskey Go-Go.
The Whiskey Go-Go, the Viper.
Every single club there on the Hollywood Strip.
And then while we were there...
I was 16, I'm not even allowed to go in.
Yeah,
no,
I remember this. And I remember I had spoken to my dad, but you had not spoken to yours because we had stolen your dad's car. And
I was a dead man.
And I had spoken to my dad, but told my mom not to tell my mom that he knew where we were. And he got my last check from the Air Force, and he sent it to me. I think to Dave's house. Or no, something.
It was the girl's house. It was Dave's girlfriend's house.
Anyway, we cash the
little
check
red
and we
Miata.
go to Universal Studios.
Oh,
and we waste all the money at Universal Studios. We have no money left. I've like $3 or something.
You remember the whole like...
Hold on. I've got 2 stories to tell.
And...
Hold on. Yes, that's how we got into Universal. Yes, I remember. I bought 1 ticket I walked out, and when you walked out back in the day, they would give you these
Ink.
stamps that were luminescent that you could only see under a black light. And I figured that the way you could do it was if you did it quick enough, you could lick the stamp and you could rub your friend's hand. If you held it there long enough and did it right, you could let go, and then you would both have a print. And
it was an old school club trick.
It was an old school club trick. And anyways, I was right. It worked. And we went to Universal Studios. I spent all my money that day. We only had a little bit of money left. We're back on Hollywood Boulevard the next day, and I went to a porn movie studio to watch a movie, like, you know, where it was the same place where Paul Rubin had been caught playing with himself. Dane gets mad at me and takes off, and while he takes off, he finds a movie set. Picks me up. He's like, dude, I'm in a movie. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, get in the car. We're going to the set. So we end up working on the set for the first ever video game, interactive video game with real people in it. And I end up getting to do stunts for the movie, for this thing. And Dane gets to be a background actor or something, and we're both like PAs. And these people are not paying us anything but food and experience, and we're loving every minute of it. So somewhere around this time, we're gone for about a month and a half now, and somewhere around this time, we're sleeping in the car, and there's a tap at the window, and it's a cop. And luckily, this man, his dad's name and his name are the same on paper. And the cop says, sorry, sir, this car's been reported stolen. And Dane, like a fucking actor, goes, I'm so sorry, sir. You just woke me up. Did you say the car's been reported stolen? like just. And the guy's like, yeah. And he goes, that's impossible. He goes, can I see your ID? And he goes, yeah, here you go. And he gives him the ID. And he goes, yeah, it's weird. The name of the ID is the same as the one that reported it stolen. And he goes, yeah, it's really weird. I don't understand why somebody would do that. I'm right here with the car, with my friend. And then as a string of fate couldn't have fucking played better, the cop right there and then gets a call. It's like, no, some crazy shit's going on down the street. The cop looks at us scared, goes, I have to go. Gives us back the ID, and gets on his motorcycle and fucking takes off. Yeah. And we're just looking at each other like, what just happened? Whoa. Somewhere along this period, I think my dad and Dane's dad end up talking, and my dad ends up giving us up. And Dane's dad finds us and ends up meeting us at Dave's, the YMI singer's house, with his mom there. Now, the thing I haven't mentioned yet is that Dave and his mom are 2 of the 9 survivors from the Waco, Texas crazy thing that happened. And so I remember
make sure you iterate that's Dave, not Dane.
Yeah, Dave, not Dane. Dave. Now, I remember standing in the kitchen, and I had started trying to get acting work or tried to do something. I had found something about acting in LA, and I was like, I'm staying in LA. I'm going to start being an actor. And Dane's dad says, are you sure you don't want to come with us? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Totally good. Not coming. I've got a manager now and an agent. So Dane takes off with his dad, and I'm in LA, and I'm homeless as all fuck, with no car and nowhere to go. And I end up going to a homeless shelter, And then the next day, I get directed to where I can get a free. It's like 2 weeks later, but I end up getting like food stamps and a Greyhound ticket back to Houston. So I take the Greyhound ticket. No, I didn't want to go back to Houston, so I asked for the ticket to Panama City, Florida, because my sister lived in Panama City, Florida. And then all of a sudden, I'm on the bus and I meet these two people, Nee and his girlfriend at the time, and we had this crazy joke. We took over the last 3 seats of the bus, and we had put all of our bags down where your feet would go, and we made that into a bed with all of our blankets and stuff. So we had this like 3-person cot in the back of the bus where we were laying down and sleeping and laughing and making jokes about how it was priceless because of the Priceless commercial back in the day. And we're like, 3 hippies back of the bus living in absolute luxury. Priceless. Yeah, like, we were just doing this. And we were just like, we had the back of the bus just going, right? We were just having the best time. And at one point we were smoking a joint in the fucking in the toilet of the bus, and the bus driver was about to kick us off. And so we make it to Houston, and my mom and dad are waiting for me at the bus stop. Mind you, they hadn't seen me since I left. And asked me to come home, and I said no. And I went to Panama City, and I stayed there for maybe 2 weeks, and then my sister kicked me out, and I went back to Houston. My mom left. They got divorced again, and my mom went to Panama City to live with my sister because she had just gotten pregnant with her first baby. My mom wanted to help her. So it was me and my dad living in Houston by ourselves. And so I got a motorcycle, and I started working at a gas station called the Diamond Shamrock. It was like 2 blocks away from my house, and I started really getting into psychedelics pretty heavily. I was doing a lot of mushrooms and acid. And then I decided to take off. My dad and me got into a fight about 6 months after living with each other. He tried to hit me with his car. And he ran over somebody's mailbox trying to hit me. And I got on my motorcycle. And the week before I left, a friend of mine, whose name is Skipper Ferris, who's an amazing chef in Houston. He's an amazing chef. He really is. I don't know if you know.
I know Skipper pretty well, like as you know.
So Skipper wanted to borrow my motorcycle. He borrowed my motorcycle and he wrecked it. And
the old Cowie 500 EX.
The Kawasaki 500 EX. Yeah, that you and I painted together. And so I took that motorcycle and I drove from Houston to Miami, Florida. It took me about 3 days. And I got to Miami and I lived with my aunt and my uncle. And I only lived there for a very short amount of time. And they kicked me out and I went to New York. And my dad was living with my grandmother at the time. This is about a year later. And my dad was living in New York, and my dad started to have Alzheimer's. So I'm around, I was around 21 years old. So I get to New York. And living at my grandmother's house, and I immediately wanted to try and be an actor. So I started going to auditions, and my grandmother didn't believe in me, so she kicked me out of the house. So I was homeless. And friends of the family let me stay with them, and I watched porn on their TV one night, and they were a super religious family. and they kicked me out. And I had nowhere to go, and I'm in Times Square, and I went to a strip joint, and I met some strippers, and I lived with some strippers at the end of the 7 train, the last stop on the 7 train. Then we had to take a bus to get to their house. And I lived with them for a couple months, and while I was living with them, I ended up being in a bunch of stuff. I ended up doing Last Days of Disco. I was in a movie, Woody Allen movie called I forgot the name of it. Celebrity by Woody Allen. And then I was in the 9 Inch Nails Trent Reznor video, I'm Afraid of Americans. And then I got this audition that by every stretch of the imagination I shouldn't have gotten, and I did for some reason, and the director was in love with me. I had no place to live at the time. I was sleeping on the street near Washington Square Park, 3 blocks away, sleeping on the heat that was coming out of the building from the NYU school. And I met a couple kids who were letting me crash in their room every once in a while, but for the most part I was sleeping in the streets. And I had seen Janine Garofalo. So I walked up to her one day. I found out where she lived, and I left a letter for her, which was my headshot, my resume, and a letter that I wrote, which told her, hi, my name's Carpenter, and I'm just looking for some direction as to where I could possibly go in this and the other. And then, 4 or 5 days later, I saw her on the street, and so I said, "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. I left a letter. Did you receive it?" And she lost her shit on me, and it absolutely demoralized me. And I remember not having any money, my mom not wanting to give me any money, and I was like, send me some money so that I can at least survive, and I have this audition that I just got. And they said no, and they bought me a ticket to go home, back to Miami. So then I got to Miami, and then when I got there, there was nobody at the airport. And when I called, nobody answered. And when I called my friend. His dad took off of work and picked me up at the airport and brought me to my aunt and my uncle's house. And I got there, and they said, "We don't want you to live here. We just wanted to see that you were okay." And so then I didn't have any place to live, and there were some friends of mine that lived down the street, and I ended up living with them. And that's when I started singing for the band Pull Out, which I was with for 4 years. We got signed to Sony within the first year, and then that fell apart because I had sex with the producer's wife, and they're in a band called Morris and Poe. They never went anywhere. They had one song that was on a video game, and that was about the biggest thing they ever got. And then the band did really well, and we won a Battle of the Bands at Hard Rock in Miami, and we won a tour of all the Hard Rocks in Florida. So we started that tour, we did Key West, and then we did another one in Miami, and we were supposed to do Orlando, and I don't know what happened that day, but I fucked it up bad, and then they kicked us off the tour. And the band broke up very soon after that, which demoralized me and killed me. And then the band took all of the music that I wrote, hired somebody else as a singer, and then started doing shows without me. So I'm absolutely destroyed at this point. I leave and I go to Orlando, and I audition for a TV show called In Search of the Partridge Family. And I become one of the top 5 finalists. I go to LA, and I'm shooting for the TV show, and that's when David Cassidy and I got into a fight over me not introducing him on camera when someone noticed me while we were at the Grauman's Chinese Theater. And then that same day, after he got really mad at me, and I'd given my all to the show, by the way. Like, I was so perfect for the show. And somewhere along the way, something happened, and I just snapped. I snapped. And when they asked me when I was doing my interview how I felt about the show, I just broke, and I was like, I think it's shit. I think this whole thing is shit. I think it's gonna fall apart. I think this is all just David Cassidy trying to be famous at an old age, and he's never gonna get anywhere. And seconds after I said that, I started crying. I regretted everything I said. They kicked me off the show. At the time, I started running around trying to get an agent so I could stay in LA. That didn't work out. One of the loves of my life had told me that she was pregnant. I never found out if she ever had my kid or not. I still think she had my kid, and then she got married right afterwards to this day. Even after I asked her. And the reason why is because there was this one time when I went to Miami, my uncle asked me to meet me at some supermarket. What's that really stupid supermarket that everybody goes to? It's all poopity. What's it called? Anyways, what? No,
Publix.
not Publix. No, it's what's it called? It's that brand that everybody. It's like all super high end foods and
Whole Foods.
Brand and Whole Foods. So my uncle says meet me at Whole Foods, and so I got there early by like 10-15 minutes, and by chance alone, as I'm walking in, who's walking out but my ex? And it's almost like she sees a ghost when she sees me. Like, oh, he found out the truth and he's confronting me now, kind of moment, And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that moment. And me and my childlike stupidity was just like, oh, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you, But in the recollection of the memory of the moment, I'm like, that's what was going on, But, so I end up going back to Houston, dejected, broken, and I decided to, not do music anymore. Even though that was going to be, my thing, and I was going to be a musician my whole life, and I was, that was my thing. One of the things, I think, from my childhood that I really wanted. And then decided not to do that, and fell in love with magic again, and started putting on magic shows in Houston. And I did one at a library, and I met a hypnotist through that show, and he wanted to start doing shows with me, and we came up with the name Mentally Hip. And because I was a mentalist, he was a hypnotist, the show was going to be called Mentally Hip. So at the time, I went back to 28 now, and I went back to Clear Lake High School to talk to the shop teacher who did woodworking, and I met a bunch of kids and did magic for them and this, that, and the other, because I was going to build a box in which I was going to have the box explode, and I was going to have it filmed on television. Like news, I was going to get the news to be there and all that kind of stuff. And so I meet these kids, and one of them decides to go to the old IBM building that was on the corner, that was right there on Nassau Road 1. Or no, not Nassau Road, but Berea Boulevard, that became the United Way building. And one of the kids ends up going to the United Way building and putting graffiti in the bathroom. And then they went online and found Mentally Hip and found me, and then blamed me for doing it. And I was like, I was super pissed when it happened. Anyways, the hypnotist gets called because we had a website together, and he's like, yo, I can't do this. Like, you can't have this in my life, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I didn't do it, bro. I didn't do it. Anyways, he leaves and leaves me with the name Mentally Hip. And I was like, I'm using it. I don't give a fuck what you do, bro. But that's a cool name, you know? And so I end up in this time going to New Orleans with a stripper that I had met. Her name is Sarah. Still talk to her to this day. Her stage name was Monterey. And I end up going with her to New Orleans, and I meet Harry Anderson from Night Court. And in a very short amount of period of time, like 3 days, we become very close friends. And I asked him if I could be his apprentice. And he says, if you show up with all of your stuff, I'll do it. And in that weekend, me and Sarah decided to go back to Houston, pack all of our shit, turn around and go back to New Orleans and live in New Orleans. And so 2 weeks later, I showed up and I walk up to Harry and I'm like, hey, man. I go, Harry Anderson. He looks at me and goes, Paul Carpenter. And I go, yeah. And he goes, what's up, man? I go, well, I got all my shit and I'm here and I'm ready to go. And he looks over and he sees my car full to the brim with shit on top of it and everything. He goes, I'll see you on Monday. And I hung out with him for 3 months. And I got to like break down and set up a show for 3 months. And then Katrina started coming. And 3 days before Katrina came, I said, man, there's a big hurricane coming and it looks really bad. Like, I'm getting out of here. I'm not staying for this. And I take off and I go to Houston. From Houston, I went to Austin city limits, where I meet a guy named David Gonzalez, who later on creates something called the Internet Marketing Party. And he's like a multi-millionaire and he's doing really well for himself and just amazing story in and of itself. But and we just contacted each other like 3 days ago, just randomly. So nonetheless, I'm 28. I broke up with this girl. Katrina just happened. FEMA gives me an apartment in Houston for free because because of Katrina, and I was living in New Orleans. And I end up staying in this apartment, and I make a movie there with my friend named Russell Rankin. And Russell was this budding film prodigy. And we live in this apartment and we end up making the apartment every scene for the movie. And we end up having basically it was an empty apartment. I didn't have much in there anyways. And so every room we were able to shoot it in different angles and put stuff in there, make one room an office, another room was an actual bedroom, another room was, so, but we were using it as though it was different locations in all these places. And on the last night of filming, we have a rap party, and this guy who was filming with us brings his cousin who had just gotten out of prison. And I'm at the party and doing magic and having fun. Everybody's good. It's all having a good time. Everything's great. And I get tired, and it's around 12:30 or whatever, and I kick everybody out. And 1:30 in the morning, somebody's banging on my door, and I'm passed out. I wake up, and I open the door, and I'm like, oh, no. It's and it's this guy's cousin at the door. He's like, man, I want to make you famous. I've got all these connections. I've got all these things and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, dude, but it's 1:30 in the morning, man. I'm sleeping. I'll see you tomorrow, bro. And the guy then fucking kicks the door, and it hits me. And he then puts a knife up to what I thought was a knife up to my throat. And as he's holding me, slams the door, takes me back towards the bedroom, and starts punching me in the face, asking me for all my money. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't have any money, bro. I'm living in a female apartment. What are you talking about? And then he takes me and he puts me in the car, and he's driving the car erratically down Highway 3, telling me that he's the devil and he's there to kill me. And we get to South Houston on Highway 3, and he takes a left, and he sees an ATM. And he goes through the back of the thing and to the ATM and slams my left side of my window into the ATM machine. So while he's stressing out about that, I unlock my, because I had put my seatbelt on because he was driving so crazy. I thought I was going to die. And so as soon as he had stopped and he was looking at that, he asks me for my wallet. I say, I can't get it. So I take off the thing, and then I just opened the door and ran. And I ran across the street and across the other side of traffic. And he then just tramples over everything and tries to get at me, and then turns right as I'm running towards a gas station, which people are at. And so I guess he at that point doesn't want to deal with it, so he keeps driving off. And I remember calling my sister and my mom at that point with somebody else's cell phone, and my sister hung up on me in the middle of the night. And I don't know how I got home or what I did or to get back. But I got back to the apartment, and I end up leaving Houston pretty soon after that and going to New York. And I had just got placed in Ripley's Believe It or Not. So I go back to New York, and I end up living with my ex band member, whose name is Leo Valencia. And I end up living with him, and I end up meeting the second love of my life. And I end up living with her for like a year and a half while I'm absolutely astronomically kicking ass in New York. Got 2 world records, had my own off-Broadway show. I had a phenomenally beautiful girlfriend that was a Ford model. My dad had passed away and left me money. So I had a lump of change in my pocket to be able to live in New York. I got a job working at a magic shop. Things were going pretty well. But after my dad died, it took me about 6 to 8 months before I even cried. And there was one night in particular, I got off of work, and I'd gotten off the subway, and it was cold and it was snowy, and somebody had been following me from the subway, and there had been a string of people who had been getting robbed. And we lived in a three-story condo, and we had the third, fourth floors. Well, third, fourth, and fifth if you count the roof. And so the door downstairs opened up, and then that would go to the first floor. You go up the stairs, second apartment, and then our third and fourth floor was ours. And we never got the key for the door downstairs, and so people kept locking the door, and we had signs on the door. It was like, yo, stop locking this door, because if you lock the door, it stops all the people from the third and fourth floor to get in. And so that night I'm really scared and I'm freaking out, and this guy's coming at me. I kick down the door and I go upstairs, act like nothing happened. So I get up there, and I'm in my room, and Leo comes up, and Leo looks a lot like my dad, like a lot like my dad. And he starts screaming at me that he knows that I'm the one who kicked the door because the imprint on the door was an Adidas shoe with the logo and everything, you know. Yeah, no worries, bro. And anyways, he ends up screaming at me, and while he's screaming at me, I see my father, and I end up breaking down. Like, I spent 4 hours or so just crying nonstop, and over my dad dying. And then at the same time, my uncle lost his job at Hewlett Packard after 30 something years of working there. And all I could think was that my dad, who was a Green Beret, Special Forces, 101st Airborne, 32nd degree Freemason, busted his fucking entire ass, dies at 62 years old with Alzheimer's, with a family that basically fucking shit on his existence. And my uncle, who never had any kids, who never had a family of his own, was left with nothing. And so I thought to myself, what am I working for? What am I chasing after? I was like, if I believe in genetics, I'm either going to have cancer or Alzheimer's by the time I'm 50 something, 60 something. I better start enjoying life now and living it on my own terms. And so I gave up on everything. I gave up on my girlfriend. I gave up on the magic career. And suddenly, in that period of time, this woman from an ex-girlfriend that I had had in Miami, who ended up leaving Miami and going to Australia to write for the Olympics, meets this girl at a coffee shop crying over a lost love, and they bond. And years later, when I created my Facebook account, this girl who is obsessed with me, was now married and had kids, wanted to produce my show in Australia. How am I going to say no? I got nothing going on in New York. My show had just finished. Producer wants to produce my show. I didn't know who she was, so I went to Australia and spent the first month promoting the show. We did really well, made all the money back in the first show, and then every subsequent show went to shit. I ended up leaving and going to Perth, Fremantle, and staying there. And then I left there and went to Bali, Indonesia, and then stayed in Bali, Kuta. And then I ended up coming back to Australia, staying there for a couple more bits. And then I flew to New York. And I got to New York, and my ex-girlfriend from Miami, again, whose name is Sharon, who at the time was the lead guitarist for CeeLo Green during the Fuck You tour. And she calls me and she goes, yo, man, I miss you. Come visit me in LA. And a friend of mine, Tony Chang, phenomenal magician, buys me a ticket. I get to LA. I get to her truck. She goes, I have the best news ever. And I'm like, what's that? And she goes, I got back together with my ex-boyfriend. So I had just flown to LA for no reason. She feels bad, so she lets me live in her apartment. And I'm depressed as all kinds of crazy. And I end up staying in the, I love you, brother. And I end up staying in the apartment by myself for like 3 weeks. And on the third week, she goes to kick me out. So I have nowhere to go. And so I start walking up and down the street, and I realize then and there that I'm in the middle of Pico Robertson. It's like the super Jewish area of Orthodox Judaism in LA. So I start walking up and down the street, and I meet a guy who owns a shop, and he won't hire me. He sends me over to this rabbi who's there were two rabbis that brought Kabbalah to the United States, and he was the one that was the good one. And so he's like, he says, listen, you need to help me. It's during Sukkot. You need to help build a sukkah. It's a good deed. So I go to do that. I meet this kid named Michael. And Michael's this crazy Israeli kid. And he takes me to this place called Aish. And there's somebody getting a bris, which is when they cut the pee-pee. And I do magic and balloons. And this rabbi walks up and he goes, hey, man, I want to send you to Israel. So at the time, I'd just been in touch with MTV about doing a TV show about a hypnotist that was going to hypnotize couples and find out which one was lying. And so I just started looking for an agent. And so I went to this guy who was going to send me to LA. And I go, no, don't send me to LA. I've got agents who should. TV show about to pop. And he says no, and I walk out of the office and I look up in the sky and I say, listen, God, if you want me to go to Israel, you need to put my hands behind my back so I have no choice. 2 weeks later, the show was gone. I had nowhere to go, and I decided to go to Israel. So I'm like 32 years old, and I end up spending a year in Israel. I come back to the States for like 4 years. I end up doing a magic DVD with a company called Black Box Illusions with these two Israeli guys. I met them through Smoothini, the ghetto Houdini, and because he had worked for them. And so, but he warned me they were shady, and they were shady because they screwed me over like over $100,000. I never got paid. And I end up at that time going back to Houston. And then I left Houston and went back to Israel. So I'm now 36 years old in in Israel. And I end up making my apartment into an Airbnb and going to the Sinai Peninsula. And I meet some people there, and I started doing ayahuasca. And I spent 3 months just doing ayahuasca nonstop. I wanted to be a shaman or something, a teacher, a rabbi, something like that, right? Always. And so after that experience, I end up coming back home. And for a couple of years, right after that experience, I traveled around Europe for a year. And then I just spent the next couple of years running around the United States, street performing in Vegas and in New York and in LA, and then performing at the Magic Castle in LA. And then I got back to Houston, and I was really tired of, I guess, the idea of making magic a job. At this point, I ended up working at MGM for a couple of years, 2 years there. Then I did the Kiss Cruise and the Kid Rock Cruise. Then I was doing some corporate work. And then I was in Houston, and I started doing some show that I called Metaverse Extract. And then from there, I ended up leaving and going to 45. So I ended up going to Miami, and then I was spending 2 years in Miami, where I ended up doing my NFT project and working on a bunch of stuff with my friend Brandon. And then I ended up leaving there after those 2 years, and I just got here to New Orleans. And 47 years old, and I'm still in the same place I think I was when I was 17, which is still wanting to create something for others that has some kind of meaning, that has some kind of something. It shows a bit of humanity along the way. And this idea that we should share, love, give, and grow. That's it. That's my life. Pretty good life so far. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying here and enjoying this with me if you did watch it, or if you watched it later. I hope it gives you some insight into who I am and why I do what I do. Thank you. Please go out into the world, do something nice for somebody else. If you can't do something nice for yourself, it does start with you. Number 2, don't get caught up in all the crazy stuff. And number 3, if you don't mind, please like, share, subscribe. Send this out to somebody who'd like to see it. And with that, from the bottom of my heart, I love you all. And I will see you all on the other side.